Hello there, and welcome to my new series I'm calling Media Lord Talks About because, well, I'll be talking all about the shows and movies I watch and love, from Doctor Who to Marvel, Stranger Things to DC, and so much more. I'll share my thoughts, feelings, and knowledge with you guys. To kick things off with today's video, I fancied discussing the pros and cons of Avatar Fire and Ash's dauntingly long runtime. So, if you're interested, let's get started, shall we? Over the past couple of years, movies have been getting longer and longer, from Avengers Endgame to Oppenheimer, even Wicked. This isn't always a bad thing. It gives the story time to breathe and more value for your money. But if the pacing's off, you can find yourself sitting there going, how is this not over already? As an inspiring writer, I think I'm always instinctively thinking about the 3-act structure. So when they don't get the pacing right, it can blur together into one long, drawn-out experience. It's a tough balancing act to crack, and the studios have tried to course correct by cutting runtimes down drastically, but this can be a detriment to the story they're trying to tell. Yes, people's attention spans are getting shorter. There's been scientific studies on the subject. I've definitely got second screen syndrome, as I tend to play my Switch and watch TV at the same time, but I am capable of concentrating on only one when there's something like The Traitors that needs 100% of my attention. So, if you build it, they will come, and the box office has proven that people will show up for movies longer than 2 hours. Some of them may talk or go on their phones like inconsiderate fools, but they'll still turn up. There's a consensus of people, including myself, who agree that the Fantastic Four first steps, for example, could have benefited from another 20 minutes. There were scenes left on the cutting room floor, with John Malkovich cut out of the film entirely, and it reflects in the final product. In trying to address the criticism that their movies were too long, studios, but specifically Disney in this case, have gone in the other direction and made them too short. Of course, we shouldn't rule out the possibility that it was a calculated move on their part to fit more screenings into the day, because more screenings theoretically means you can make more money. After Captain America Brave New World and Thunderbolts flopped at the box office, they could have reverted back to this tried and tested rule to better their chances of recouping their losses. Enjoying the video? Why not like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one. Considering how James Cameron actually owns the rights to Avatar through his production company, Lightstorm Entertainment, he's probably afforded the luxury of having little to no corporate interference. While Disney make and distribute the movies, he has the final say on the franchise's direction and creative decisions. This likely means he dictates the runtimes too, which you'd hope indicates that the reason Fire and Ash is so long is because that's how long the story naturally is. Directed by James Cameron and scheduled to be released on the 19th of December 2025, Avatar Fire and Ash has set its runtime at 3 hours and 15 minutes. But how does this compare to other installments in the franchise? If you was to watch every Avatar film back to back, it would take you 8 hours and 9 minutes, with the first Avatar being 2 hours and 42 minutes long. That's 29.5% of the total runtime. The Way of Water beats this by being 3 hours and 12 minutes, 35%, which leaves Fire and Ash with its record-breaking 3 hours and 15 minutes, 35.5%. The Avatar saga is expected to last for 5 movies, telling an overarching narrative of how humanity seeks to colonize Pandora and pillage its natural resources, while the Na'vi fight back against the alien invaders. This means Fire and Ash will take us past the halfway point as the conflict continues to escalate and we see alliances being forged, loyalties tested, and game-changing revelations come to light. Its runtime will more than likely be justified because of the vital role it's set to play, preparing us for the endgame, which will apparently see the Na'vi come to Earth. The downside is, it's definitely going to test everyone's bladders to the limit and possibly cause some water infections from holding it in too long. I'll never forget practically limping out of my screening the second Jake opened his eyes and the credits rolled last time. Let's just hope history doesn't repeat itself. With longer runtimes becoming more and more common over the last couple of years, it raises the question of whether it would be worth bringing back intermissions. It used to be standard practice for cinemas to include intermissions due to the necessity of changing the film reels. Of course, now everything's digital. They were phased out in the early 80s, so they could fit as many screenings into one day as possible. Recently, cinema chains have been open to reviving the intermission, as they did for The Brutalist, which is over 3.5 hours. With people more reluctant to spend their hard-earned cash at the cinema when they can just wait a couple of weeks for a movie to land on streaming, so they can watch it whenever they like and pause it as and when necessary, would an intermission draw them in or turn them away? I'm honestly not sure how I feel about it, let alone you. There's pros and cons to intermissions. They alleviate the worry of you having to miss part of the film because you'll know there's a break halfway through for you to go to the toilet and whatnot. But it also breaks the immersion, interrupts the story, and brings you crashing back down to reality. It has to be optional, not mandatory, I think. If you don't give people the choice, why wouldn't they just wait at home where they're in charge of the pause button? There's a lot to think about, and in an ideal world, we'd be able to sit and watch Fire and Ash, fully hydrated and fed, with empty bladders and bowels, but when you gotta go, you gotta go. So, we'll have to see how much of a challenge this runtime is to sit through, and whether we'll all make it through unscathed. But the wonder and joy that comes from experiencing these movies on the big screen makes every second spent in Pandora worth it, and proves that if you give your visual effects artists the time and space they need to work their magic, they can push the boundaries of technology and transport us to worlds beyond our imagination, even if it takes them 22 years to bring this saga to its conclusion. But what do you guys think? Are you daunted by Fire and Ash's long runtime? Do you think it's what the story needs? Let me know in the comments below, and if you'd like to support my channel, feel free to visit my Patreon or Ko-fi page. Until next time, goodbye.